So far, we've got 1 point to our 2020 mid-rangers, 3 to our 2020 flagships. But now we're on to the really important stuff. Once the honeymoon phase with your phone is over, and the novelty factor of its more toy-like gimmicks has worn off, it is all about the practicality. Can you take photos and videos reliably? Can you watch videos even if you're sitting in bright sunlight? Can you play games without lagging out? So let's start with performance. And on the bright side, phone chipsets are improving pretty fast. Like these newer phones, they are powered by newer and more efficient streamlined processors. However, because these mid-rangers are designed for the mass market, for average users, you will find that the mid-range chipsets take big shortcuts in places that they think an average user won't notice. The main one being graphics performance, which does make sense, because while an average smartphone user might well dabble in a game of Pokemon Go or Plumber Crack, they're much less likely to be a hardcore Genshin Impact player, and if they are, they can pay for that extra graphics by buying a higher end phone. And so, just for a point of reference, I've ran the Antutu benchmark on each one of these phones, and you can see that while the new mid-rangers are all very close to that 400,000 point mark, the old flagships are all pushing over 650k. That makes them about 70% more capable. Now I will say that in most basic tasks, this difference will only present itself in minor ways, like photos taking an extra second to process, web pages and apps loading just a fraction slower, your keyboard taking a moment to appear when you need it. But I also do need to reiterate that this is not a small performance gap. If you're the kind of person who does play a lot of intense games, or who does like to smoothly transition between multiple heavy workloads, then you will notice that mid-rangers like the Samsung A53, they're pretty easy to overwhelm. And what doesn't help is that you also tend to get less RAM on the mid-rangers. While the flagships on this table come with 8, 12 and 12 gigs, that compares to 8, 6 and just 4 gigabytes. Easy win for the 2020 flagships. And it's not just that apps and games are going to run smoother on the old flagship, they're also going to look better thanks to the displays. Don't get me wrong, screens are improving year by year, and this 2-year gap is about the amount of time that it would take for a piece of display tech seen in a flagship to make its way to a mid-range phone. So, for example, 2020 was the first year where every flagship started to come with high refresh rate 90 or 120Hz panels. And take a look at this table, every single phone now has a high refresh rate screen. But the affordable phones, they are still missing out on that premium level of brightness, mostly capping out at around 800 nits compared to 1200. Not to mention that flagship screens, they also just tend to be a little larger. Being catered to the power user who just wants the most of everything, you almost have to have a big screen to be able to fit in all those other components behind it. But now is where the mid-rangers start to pull back, because one of their key saving graces is software support. And that might sound a little counterintuitive. It's normally flagship phones that get the best support and the most updates, but the very nature of having a phone that's just 2 years more current means that even if you, let's say, get 1 year of total support less, that's still going to take you 1 extra year forward from now. And in the case of Samsung, a little more than that. It seems like Samsung's made it priority number 1 recently to make sure that all new phones get major software support. So while their old S20 Ultra is due 3 years of Android upgrades in total, which is on the upper end already, this new A53, even though it's not a flagship, is actually going to get 4 years of upgrades. That is an enormous difference. The S20 Ultra is going to top out at Android 13. This thing's going to take you to Android 16. And that's not the only benefit to being more recent. See, whichever category of phone you get here, it's more or less a given that you're getting somewhere between a 4,000 and a 5,000 mAh battery capacity. And so, because there's a negligible difference in battery size, it's more about how well that cell can hold its charge, where newer is also better. Batteries degrade over time. Simple as that, really. They degrade fast when they're being used daily, so if you're buying your older phone pre-owned, you'll have lost a sizable chunk of battery health. But they also degrade even when they're not being used. So even if you're buying a 2020 flagship phone boxed and sealed, the fact that it was manufactured 2 years ago, and the fact that it's been sitting on a shelf somewhere for that amount of time, will also make it not quite as enduring as one that's fresh off the belt this year. Not to mention the added battery drain on the flagships that just comes from the beefier chips they contain. But there's an even bigger factor at play here. A new phone is going to be covered by warranty. I mean, yes, you can buy officially refurbished older flagships direct from the manufacturer, which will be covered, but you'll pay a big premium for that. And so I imagine that most people going down this route will probably be eBaying it. And when you do so, the very nature of buying something that has been used for a period of time, it multiplies the potential number of things that could go wrong with it. This is a rare case, but just for example, the first Mi 10 Pro that I bought